What's up guys, I'm Ben from AuthenTech and this is my camera comparison test of the iPhone SE 2020 versus the iPhone 11 Pro. Now this is shooting on the front-facing selfie camera.
And as you can see right off the bat, the SE is maxed out at 1080p. The 11 Pro can shoot here in 4K, which makes it a much sharper looking image. Now the SE is looking pretty soft and blurry. Also notice the 11 Pro front-facing camera has a wider field of view, which I prefer. Plus the dynamic range looks nicer as well, as the SE is sort of blowing out the highlights. The new iPhone SE 2020 is starting at $400. The iPhone 11 Pro, $1,000. Now I want to know, does this parts bin SE phone, which reportedly has the same camera sensor as an iPhone 8, which is from 2017, but now benefiting from the A13 chip, how well does it perform and compete against the $1,000 11 Pro? I purchased both of these phones with my own money, so I'll be brutally honest. Now let's dive right in. Front-facing camera video, going for a quick jogging stabilization test, another big win for the 11 Pro, producing much smoother looking footage. While I'm walking under the trees, just watch how blown out the highlights get on the SE, versus the 11 Pro's accomplishing a very impressive high dynamic range image, exposing quite well for the dark shadows under the trees while maintaining some clarity of the bright background and water reflections.
This is audio on the iPhone SE and this is audio on the iPhone 11 Pro. How does the audio sound and compare? Audio test 1, 2, 3, 4. Audio test 1, 2, 3, 4.
They both sound pretty good and comparable. Now they both feature stereo audio recording, and that's nice to hear. Switching to some daytime photos, starting on the rear facing cams, one of the major trade-offs of the SE's budget price tag is that single rear camera. Now it's not terrible by any means, and for the average user, it'll probably do you just fine. The two lenses it's missing from the 11 Pro are the ultra wide and 2x telephoto lens. When we see these shots compared side by side, you should be able to see the distinct differences, not just in terms of field of view, but also the clarity, details, sharpness, and perspective change. Again, for the average user, the SE single lens still performs quite well for everyday photos. Switching to portrait mode, the SE can only do portrait photos on people, not objects like this flower on the 11 Pro. On the front-facing camera, the SE's photos look better than its video performance, but again, it's not as wide angle and it's only 7 megapixel compared to the 12 megapixel on the 11 Pro. It's exposing my face pretty well overall, but sometimes at the cost of blown out highlights again. Portrait mode looks fairly good to the 11 Pro, similar edge detection and nice colors overall. In low light, this is another big area the SE suffers greatly. Very odd, Apple did not give us night mode on the single rear lens. So when the lights go way down, the SE looks pretty grainy, noisy, dark, underexposed, and pretty disappointing for a 2020 phone. Even Google Pixel includes night mode. Maybe you're not snapping a lot of low light shots, so you won't mind missing it on the SE. I'm just not sure why Apple didn't include it. Let me know if you guys want to see my comparison of the Pixel 3a versus the iPhone SE. It's much closer in price and camera features. Jumping to 4K video on the rear camera, the SE performs quite well in terms of video quality. Its colors and HDR look really nice, and iPhone has a magic sauce when it comes to wide color capture and extended dynamic range for video. The SE can even record video up to 4K 60 FPS if you'd like, which is impressive in itself. Now again, if I were stuck with the iPhone SE, I'd be greatly missing the ultra wide lens, which squeezes so much more into camera frame. It produces fun, immersive, and fresh perspectives, and then the 2x telephoto lens produces these really crisp, sharp looking videos. Just to show you the clear difference, if we try to digitally zoom in on the SE, you can see just how pixelated and mushy it looks. There's no competing against an optical telephoto lens.
Let's start off a quick stabilization test with the ultra wide angle.
Not only does the 11 Pro look much smoother in stabilization, but the SE has some pretty rough HDR flickering effect you can clearly make out up in the skies. Switching to the 11 Pro's primary lens, its field of view is still slightly wider, which I appreciate. Its stabilization is better as well, though unfortunately, can you see some of that HDR flickering showing up in the sky? I'd really like to see Apple fix this issue. A very important video detail is autofocus speed and accuracy. Now in my patented autofocus test, they both look pretty fast and accurate, with the 11 Pro coming in a few frames faster, which is nice to know and something to keep in mind. Impressively, the SE can also keep up in terms of slow motion. It's able to record the same as the 11 Pro 120 FPS at 1080p, or even up to 240 frames per second at 1080p as well. Motion is looking buttery smooth and fluid, and the 11 Pro is just coming out a tad sharper with a little bit better clarity. Both iPhones record, quote, time-lapse video with stabilization. Now, I've been complaining about this for years, and I really wish our phones could record a better hyperlapse. GoPro and Insta360 has been doing this well for years. At least we have the 11 Pro's ultra-wide, which helps to capture a more immersive action time-lapse, and its stability looks better over the SE. We can't forget low-light video, and this is honestly a pretty important test because, sure, we might not be shooting photos or videos in pitch black scenarios, but as common man, we are often snapping shots in lower light conditions. And how these cameras handle ISO noise processing and how large the aperture is can affect our outcome. I'd vote the 11 Pro like an A- here and the SE a tad behind, maybe a straight B or B-. How well do you think the SE's camera performed against the 11 Pro? I'd say you're getting a pretty good camera for a pretty good price. Now, I popped my main SIM into the SE to drive it daily, test out all those other little details, like how does that A13 chip actually feel, fast and snappy? How about battery life on a full day's usage? And that outdated screen and uncomfortably large bezels. Did I notice them each time I picked them up? Or did they slowly fade over time? Consider sticking around and let me know down in the comments if you want to see my hands-on review of this SE. Is it actually worth that semi-affordable price tag of $400 for an iPhone? Or are you better off saving your money? Maybe going with a Pixel or a $200 Redmi, or even saving up a little bit more money for maybe a used iPhone XS or 11. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and until I see you next week, let's live AuthenTech.